With the ending of any series comes many unanswered questions, and as a result, many differing interpretations about the events of the story, and in general, what was the point? And when it comes to discussions on themes, symbolism and the likes, it often comes down to a lot of subjectivity. For such a reason, I'm not presenting my interpretation of this final chapter and what it says about the series as a whole, as any kind of definitive statement on Gege's intentions or the correct message of the story. Instead, this is simply my takeaway from the story, and as such I'd be delighted to hear any of your alternative takes on the series in the comments below. So if you find yourself entertained at any point during the video, then consider liking, subscribing and ringing that bell anyway on the video. Now that all said, what do I, Seth, the longtime fan of Jujutsu Kaisen, make of this ending? Well, to me the most core message of this ending is that everyone has the capacity to change for the better. But at the end of the day, that is a choice one can only make for themselves, not one that can be forced onto them by others. This is the lesson that Yuji comes to learn across the story, and the lesson he imparts in this final chapter. So to explain what I mean by this, we need to go back to the Mahito arc, where Yuji meets Junpei and tries to save him. Yuji forces his way into Junpei's life and his problems. When Junpei says it has nothing to do with him, Yuji replies, "That's not for you to decide." Now I'm not saying Yuji's intentions were wrong here. He was genuinely trying to help his friend, but Junpei didn't want to be helped. It took Yuji promising to save Junpei and help him solve his problems to get through to him. He forced salvation onto him. He didn't take no for an answer, he had to save Junpei for his own sake. But that was a promise Yuji could not keep. He was powerless to save Junpei from Mahito. By trying to save Junpei, he just gave the kid false hope. In the same way his grandfather cursed him, he did the same to Junpei, setting Junpei down a path he did not choose for himself. And then in the Shinjuku Showdown, this happens again. Yuji reaches out to Megumi, but Megumi doesn't take his hand. Megumi doesn't want to be saved. He had had enough, had his own body be used to kill the two people most precious to him, his sister and his teacher. Megumi had every right to feel how he did, and so because of that Yuji had to accept his feelings. Which is why when he reaches out a second time, he tells Megumi that he cannot tell him to keep on living. Yuji has learned from his mistakes. He acknowledges that he may be strong enough to keep getting up after every hardship, but that's just him. He didn't see his grandfather as weak for not wanting to deal with the side effects of intense treatment, and he now doesn't see Megumi as weak for not wanting to keep going on. What Yuji does here is simply give Megumi the choice. If he wants to be saved, then he is welcome to take his hand, but if not, then he fully understands. Yuji's face here of him accepting Megumi's decision, whichever way he chooses, is in my mind true strength. The strength to accept the decision someone else makes about their own life, even if it's something you've never wished for. And as we all know, Megumi does choose to live, fighting back against Sukuna alongside Yuji. He isn't just being saved, he is fighting to live. In a way then, Yuji didn't save Megumi, Megumi saved himself. But beyond just Megumi, we also see the same logic applied to the curse user in the final chapter. He was a creepy stalker and he was in the wrong. But let's be honest, he was far from a big evil villain. He was caught and he lost. That was an unavoidable truth, but what matters is what comes next. As Yuji says, you acknowledged you messed up, that's all that matters. Take some time to reflect, then come help us out on our next mission. I'm expecting great things from you. Just like Gojo did for him, he is giving this guy a chance to change and put his power to good use to help others rather than hurt them. Once you lose, you lose. You have to admit you were wrong and the guy who beat you was right. But once that's all done, what comes next is an open door. You can choose to go back to how you were before and you'll probably lose again, or you can change and grow, the choice is yours. Much like with Megumi, Yuji gave this curse user a choice, to give up or strive for something better. He imparted the opportunity to choose onto them, as that's in a way all you can do. You can't save people, you can just give them the option to be saved, a chance, a choice. Sometimes this can be achieved by reaching out a hand, other times through defeat, and in the most extreme cases through death. It just depends on how deep rooted one is to their current outlook and how much it would take to make them consider a change. And to wrap up this point, I want to turn to the final and ultimate example of this idea, and of all characters it comes from Sukuna. Sukuna for most of the story was the ultimate example of pure strength. The strongest character the series ever saw, one who always wins and gains what he wants using his raw power. Sukuna was always right because he always won. The winner decides what is wrong and the loser has no power to say otherwise. he dictated the truth of the story of what it means to be strong to succeed as a sorcerer. The story even began with a chapter named after him and a panel of his fingers' resting place. He brought about the story, he incited the plot, and whenever a character pushed back against his truths, they were defeated and lost any right to object to his will. But now at the end of the story that has changed. Sukuna lost. Not to Gojo, not to Yuta, not even to Yuji. He lost to the combined efforts of everyone. His sole lone strength lost out to the power of connection. The thing he called weakness was what in the end led to his defeat. The one character he praised for coveting lone strength did not beat him. The brat who started from nothing and preached everything Sukuna saw as dribble did. And so after his death, Sukuna admits that he has no right to object. He lost, it's as simple as that. His way was wrong, but due to the King of Curses mindset, he'd only ever admit it once he was dead. As he tells Mahito, if there's a next time, maybe he'll walk a different path. After all, he can't object to his loss, his way of living, it lost. At the end of the day, even Sukuna was human. He might have been about as far gone as a human can be, but he was still human, and humans, unlike curses, aren't defined by their nature. They can grow, and they can change. And that's why I think Yuji left that final finger, because although Sukuna obviously won't ever return, if by some chance he ever did, Yuji wanted to give him a chance to walk a different path, to change and give life another go. It's an extension of the choice he gave to Sukuna before the King of Curses chose death. Once again, another example of Yuji offering a choice. He doesn't try to save Sukuna, nor land the finishing blow. He leaves that choice up to Sukuna to die, or give it another go. And so that lone finger is a gesture by Yuji, a way for him to come and take another crack at it if he ever wants to. If he chooses to live the same way as before, then the new generation of strong sorcerers will exercise him, but if not, he can walk another path. The first panel of the series is the same box featured in the last panel of the series, but this time the box is open, a ray of light illuminating the lone finger of Sukuna, almost as if to say, let's give this whole story another crack, right from chapter 1, but this time let's walk a different path, one of light, not darkness. The whole story literally comes full circle, but the circumstances are different. The first panel is at night, the final in daylight. It's a bright new future for the Jujutsu Kaisen world, but it still goes on, just as always. But due to the choices our cast made, with Kusakabe reshaping the workings of Jujutsu sorcery from the top, and Yuji serving to raise the new generation up the right way, with any luck there won't be a repeat of what happened to Haibara, or Geto, or Gojo. It's time for Jujutsu Society to walk a different path. Our main cast in a way have defeated the society of the past, quite literally in the case of the Zenin clan and the higher ups, and so now they get to decide what is the right way to go forwards. Will they learn from the past and change for the better, or will they repeat the failings of the past and lose themselves? We can't say for certain, but if I had to bet my money, I'd say they've got this. I'm sure many people don't like this ending, and there's going to be comments for years to come about how XYZ minor plot point wasn't addressed in a satisfying way. But if I'm being honest, I couldn't care less. I love this series and I love how it ended, so if you've got a problem with it, good for you. But you're never going to convince me this isn't a terrific ending to a terrific series. After all, this truly was our Jujutsu Kaisen. And if you want to support this channel even further, then perhaps pledge to my Patreon, or consider becoming a channel member so you can get your name at the end of the video like Hikari Desu, Rinjak9696, Mr. Sputum, and Matthias Rowett. So with all that said and done, I have been Seth the Sin, the Deadly Sin of Geek, and I'm signing out. Stay safe, everyone.